Alright, this time on the laboratory, we're working on a no-name, made in China carousel, very reminiscent to one of the ones from Department 56. This is from an outdoor display. I just put some fresh batteries in it. It's battery operated. It says number 15, made in China, $29.98 on the sticker. And whether I flip the switch this way or that way, because it's a two-position switch, nothing happens. So let's open it up and find out what's going on. First thing though, the top isn't actually glued on. The glue has broke down from being outside, so you can actually remove this. There's remnants of glue, and here's the circuitry in the top for the lights that light up just these three panels. And you can see it's just some basic circuitry. It's just a couple of wires with some LEDs and a resistor. So, and then you can see the three lights, and then there's the three signs that technically light up. On the bottom, we got a total of 4 little screws. What's nice about the top popping off, which I'll probably hot glue back on when we're done, is it can actually rest upside down completely flat and makes it a little bit easier to work on. And if you have something like this and you want to plug it in, there are ways to make this powered off of an adapter, especially since this is a 4.5 volt unit, 3 batteries, and there's plenty of space here on the back. You can actually put in a power port like on one of the 2 sides of this switch. So if you want something similar, you could, technically. And there's the problem. Got a broken wire. That's why it doesn't work. So, I'm assuming the wire went to the switch. All right. Even touching the switch is not working, so I'm wondering if I'm not getting good battery contact. So I'm just going to pop these batteries out. These are brand new Duracells. I'm going to give this thing 4.5 volts. There. And right there. Oh, I don't got no lights. Maybe the switch is bad. There we go. Get the music to play. Can we get the lights to work? I think. just trying to have it sit on the sensor. Well, we definitely know that the speaker works. That's what this is. This is just the tone generator right here. But we can't get the lights to work. I'm trying to see why. And it looks like there's a motor in there too. Yeah, this is supposed to spin. Alright, let's continue taking this thing apart. See if we can get this to work. So I'm going to start with these screws right here. See if I can get this top to separate. Trash out. Nope. Now I'm going to unscrew the screws that are in the bottom. It's like there's 4 screws on the top, there's 4 screws on the bottom. There we go. And all the way up in here is a little motor. So I'm wondering if the motor is shorted out, and that's why lights don't work, because they're on the same set of wires. And there is the motor right here. Yeah, and they're all soldered together right here with that resistor. So I'm wondering if this motor is defective. So I'm just going to trace the red and black wire up through the top. There's more than one of each. So this is the right red. That red wire soldered right there. And then we got black wire. On this side of the resistor. So I'm going to turn my voltage down on my power supply to just under 3 volts. And the lights flickered for a second. So, based on that, I think we have a bad motor. So I'm going to snip the motor just to take it out of the circuit for a second. And see if I can get the lights to work. Let's try it from down here. Alright, so we're still not getting any light. It's hard to tell. Most of the wires that go are, they got red and black wires tied together. But I'm wondering if something else is bad. These guys even, no, nothing's turning on. Okay. So I'm sending 3 volts into it. And not getting any power going through it. There we go. I think the wire going down is bad. I'm not getting any connection on this thin black wire going back down to the switch. I should be reading 3 volts. I'm not. This thing just might need to be rewired. The wire may have broke, or possibly opening it has stretched it and broke the internal, because these things are paper thin. I know that's very common on a lot of stuff these days where they run really thin wire, because there's not a lot of amperage going through it. It's just LEDs and a small motor. But I'm going to double check the motor separate from the lights. We're going to see if that motor actually spins or if it is actually bad. So, motor directly. And here's the ground. And that motor is not rotating whatsoever. I can hear it. It's trying. Oh, you can hear it. It's pulling 200 milliamps or less. For such a small unit, this thing has a lot of screws. Alright, so the motor drives this big gear, which is supposed to drive off these planetary gears, which there's 3 of. Just didn't. So actually the motor drives 1 planetary gear, and then it in turn drives this big tooth down here, which then is stabilized by the other 2 planetary gears. So it's a basic setup. It's been used on lots of things. Let's see if that motor is turning that gear. Now that I have it upside down. There we go. Hey, I got lights. Yep, all the lights are working and the motor's working. The motor's turning really slow. I am putting, here's 4.5 volts, and that is turning extremely slow. Here it is at 5 volts. I don't think the motor's strong enough to turn this unit, and I think the wires are bad. Because I haven't done anything to it, now the lights are working, so I think I got bad connections. So I'm probably going to end up rewiring this. I'm going to use a little bit thicker wire. Probably use something like this. This is 4-strand. It's LED 4-strand wire. If you look here, you might be able to see that it's about 3 times the thickness of what's in here. Yeah, that is really slow. I don't think it has enough juice to... Yeah, it just doesn't have the power to turn anything. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder in some new wire and see if that fixes this. If this doesn't, then we'll change the motor out. It's a standard hobby motor. It's the same one that's used on a ton of like Limax and stuff. It's just a 300 CA motor. There's 2 variants of the motor. One is a high-speed motor. The other one's a higher torque, lower-speed motor. I don't think this needs the high torque motor. I think the standard one would work fine. But I am going to start soldering. I'm just going to replace most of these wires with some of this 4-strand and some 2-strand. And we're going to see if we can get this thing to function and get it back to its display for next Christmas. Does look like all the LEDs are on. I don't see any burned out ones. If there's any burned out lights, we'd replace them while we're here. So, and my power supply is stronger than the battery, so if it was like weak batteries, it wouldn't be putting this much of a strain on my power supply. So, anyhow, be back here shortly. I'm going to solder in some new wires, and we're going to give it a whirl again. And if that doesn't work, we're going to swap out this motor for something better. Alright, all rewired. As you can see, it's working. And then it's running on its batteries. I didn't glue the top on yet. So, but yep, I'll probably put some hot glue on the top to hold it. So, there's no clips or anything to clip it in. It just rests in here. I think a couple of dabs of hot glue will fix that. The switch works. Wherever that switch is. So basically, and I did replace the motor. Here's the original. It's full of oil. The grease, the lubricant, got inside of it, because it would intermittently work when I give it direct power. And if you watch the other videos, when that happens, it's usually caused by liquid getting inside, very common on like a lot of Limax ones. Here's some of the old wire, the thin stuff. So it needed a motor, and I just resoldered all the wires with some new thicker wires that are a little bit stronger, so that way it doesn't have the same problems. It's not the most in-depth video because I didn't go through the full how I did all the soldering, but if you've seen my other videos, I've done lots of soldering. So then just reassemble it. Make sure that you just put all the screws back in, and that's it. So still the same resistor. I just cut the ends off, made it a little shorter. New motor, which just like all of them, it's got two itty bitty screws that screw through the face on all those little holes. Two of the holes have a screw. And put the gearbox back together. As you saw, it's just a couple of big gears. And put all new wiring down inside. So it's now this heavier gauge. New solder joints. Cleaned the corrosion off the battery contacts because they're a little rusty from being outside. And now she works. So she is good to go back to its owner. Once I put some glue on this to keep this from falling out. So it's not the most interesting video, but it's just showing you that you can take some of these cheaper ones and you can repair them. You can repair them with a motor or just resoldering the wires. And if an LED burns out, LEDs are cheap. You can replace an LED. So they're not too terribly hard. So if you have some of these no-name generic Chinese animated pieces in your village, you can repair them. In most cases easier than you can repair the ones that come from the big names such as Department 56, Limax, Mr. Christmas. And that's because they do mostly gluing while the cheaper ones are mostly using screws. So there she be. Functional, new motor, new wire, no light replacement, no resistor replacement, and we're good. If he wanted it to run on power, not battery, I would have put one in there, but he just wants it to be battery powered, so there's no point in wasting the time to drill a hole and put in stuff that's never going to get used. So until the next one, thanks for watching.